Awesome.
Hello, everyone, and welcome finally to the launch party for the 11th Cycle. We are joined by both the author, Kian, and also Jessica, who is one of the narrators who does an amazing job. I'm Lana from this channel, India Chords, and I'm going to hand over and you guys can introduce yourselves and let us know a bit about you and where you're from, etc., etc. That would be awesome.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having us. I am the author of 11th Cycle, which, has been making the rounds on Twitter and such and BookTube. And I also work as a in-house writer for Actors Everywhere, which is also where I know Jessica. And we're now here to do a lunch party, finally. And that's pretty much it.
Awesome. Hi, I am Jessica. I am one of the narrators for this incredible book. I live in New York City. I'm originally from Alabama. I am a actor, singer, dancer, voiceover actor, Disney fanatic, addict, whatever you want to call that. If you can't, wrong way. There we go. I'm not a weatherman.
Yes.
So love Disney. Just very excited to talk about this book. And
Amazing. So I absolutely love this book. Just before we kick into the questions that I have been wanting to ask for months, I will just let everyone know that we are giving away a physical copy of 11th Cycle. So if you just want to pop in the comments, if you have 11th Cycle in your wish list, your Amazon wish list, if you don't, pop it in and just leave a comment in the comment section and I will add you to the giveaway list. We'll be drawing that towards the end. So get on that. And if you have any questions, please feel free to drop them and ask them. I don't have a lot, but the ones that I do have, I'm like, need to know. So I'm going to ease you into it. So one thing that I did want to know is what are some of the highlights and lowlights of writing a book like this? Because it's quite dark. Like, is there like a process you have to go through to get into that mind frame?
You have to make a blood sacrifice in a blue moon. No, it's, I don't know. I think it's not so much that I had to be in the right headspace, like I had to be in a dark place or anything like that. I think I was just so obsessed with the story in a kind of like macabre fascination sort of way of like exploring these really dark themes. And there is a part in the book where, Delilah and a friend go and watch a play, which is a tragedy, and it does have a tragic ending, and it does make a commentary on like, hey, why are we so fascinated with dark stuff? And I think it's kind of like that. It's not so much that I was in a dark headspace, but I just loved exploring a lot of these dark themes, and that's just the way. And even now that I'm writing book 2, it's just returning to this and kind of being like, how do humans deal with just being in these really dark places and trying to, make it through the day and trying to come out the other side, sort of thing. But yeah, I'm curious how Jessica, narrated those parts and got into that headspace.
I'll tell you, I cried during some of them. Like, I'm not even gonna lie. Like, I'm reading and I started like literally crying because especially like Nora's journey, like, dang, girl goes, spoiler alert, I'm not gonna go into details, but dang, she goes through a ringer. Like, I love both Delilah and Nora a lot. By the way, when I first read Delilah, my brain auto-corrected to Dahlia. So, like, I had to go back and change that because I said Dahlia for some reason. But they both go through these, like, really epic, beautiful journeys. As dark as it gets, like, you know, like, even, you know, Delilah's, like, hers is just dark, too. Like, they all make human mistakes that, you know, if we were put in a similar situation, probably we would make too. And I love just the lore of the world that you created. The way that it kind of is like similar to like the religions of today and like, but also blended with this and that. And it just was very fascinating. And I just really enjoyed the crafting of the story and creating these characters and really living in them. I thought it was a really like beautiful journey, and I'm excited to see where they go. I hope they get happy endings. I need them to have a happy ending at some point, because I was like, oh yay, this character finally is gonna have like a good moment. It's gonna be great, and then nope. And I went, oh my god, okay.
It gets so brutal, brutal. The amount of times I was like, how very dare you? How could you?
I get that a lot. People have messaged me and it's like, you know, they send me gifts of like, I have several questions. First off, how dare you? And it's like, yeah.
But it makes stakes. It gives you stakes. Sometimes you get these fantasy stories where the main characters always win. Like, yeah, they might go through a little bit of hardship, but they always win. And it's nice to have those moments and these characters like, no, they might win by the very end, but like they're gonna have to work their way. They're gonna have to learn from their hubris that they had and their confidence and everything, and learn that, you know, you have to change and become a better person.
Yeah, it's very interesting you say that, because now that the book is published, I have had some people come to me and say like, whoa, this is too grimdark. You know, some people just, they couldn't, it was too much for them. And I totally get that. I've had other people come up to me and says, wait, I thought this was supposed to be grimdark. And they're like it was a great story, but I didn't feel like it was a good, and it's always up there of like, what is grimdark, what isn't. And I think for some people, they, I don't know, deal with it in different ways.
Mm.
Yeah.
I'm loving some of these comments already. They're cracking me up. Like, number one question, are you a masochist?
On that, we will just go through all of the comments. Please remind me to do this because I just get caught up in the conversation and forget. But we have Mr. GCM Byrne himself ready to party. Vivian, hello. It is morning where I am, so I'm just going to say good morning. How did I not know it was today at 8? I don't know, Maddie. I haven't, maybe because I didn't message you. It's happening this time. So happy to have you here with us, though, my friends. Hey, Danny.
Hey, Danny. Hey, guys.
Hey. Awesome.
These are great.
Good morning, class. We have Kayla, hello, and Tori. I'm an instant fan of Jessica. She has a Stitch blanket.
It's actually a Disney 100 Years of Wonder, so it's not just like Stitch. It has like all these characters on it. So we have like Simba and Daisy, Mickey, Donald, Woody, Tiana, Stitch. Either
that looks so cozy.
Oh, it is. I'm a blanket person. I have blankets everywhere to the point where my boyfriend's like, we need to get rid of some, and I said, over my dead body. He's glad
that's where you draw the line.
Yeah, he's a thermostat, and I'm cold all the time. So it's like we have to have a balance. I need blankets, whereas you need the fan on when it's the middle of the winter.
Yes. I was admiring the photo of the horse.
My boyfriend actually took that photo. He's a
Say.
photographer. He's really good. He does my headshots. If you go onto my website, he did basically every picture that's featured there. This is like him at the Grand Canyon and everything. So he's a really good photographer. So that's me tooting his horn for him.
That
That is
is
so practical, I'm just going to say.
awesome. Sorry, I have the ebook, not the physical copy yet. Put it on your wish list and you could win. Awesome. Hi,
Hello.
Bookworm. Hello. Good morning. She is also in Australia.
Nice.
I thought it was a dog.
I thought, I don't know, it looks like arms, but then like a human body, but then a horse head.
I can't figure
Oh, okay, the stick isn't an arm. I thought the stick was some sort of arm from afar, but that's cute.
It's a fence. So excited to read this soon. I'm in the same boat as Tori.
I hope you guys like it.
I
And
love
again,
it.
like for whoever is interested in audiobooks, seriously, like Jessica and Evan do such a phenomenal job. I had goosebumps a lot of the times.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. And your voices. Like with voiceover actors and like narrators, I am constantly blown away by like from chapter to chapter, like I was like, this for sure is not the same person.
Yeah.
Like between you doing like Nora has such a distinctive voice, and then you go to Delilah and she does too. I was just like, how is this the same person? And then the character voices in between, I was like,
yeah,
this is why
that was honestly the most difficult part. So usually when we do like dual narration, usually what happens is like I do every single female part always throughout the entire book, and the male person or male identifying does every single male person throughout the entire book. And when we were presented with, whenever it was a female-led chapter, I do every voice in every male chapter. He does every voice. We had to share. We had like a huge Google sheet that was all of our pronunciations of all the made up words or whatever. So we would make sure we stayed consistent in both of our chapters. We also had voice files for all of our characters so that I would know how this character sounded. He would know how my character sounded, so that we made sure that even though we couldn't have it 100% correct, because like I'm not a dude, I can't pitch my voice as low as him, and he's not a girl, so he can't pitch his voice as high as I can. Like we could at least have that semblance of each other so that they blended and you could tell it was still like a through line.
You both did a really good job. Like,
thank you. I appreciate that.
I know several people did message me and they were like, God, like Jessica, the way she does Nora's voice and then the emotion she puts into it. I know that several people in the chat messaged me saying like, Jessica did such a good job and everything.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Really? Yeah. And there was like a late battle scene in the book, and Evan Jordan did. I don't know how he did it or how you guys did it, but there was an echo for like a chanting that the Akar did, and I'm like, that was so cool as well.
Yeah. I got goosebumps at that point. I was like, whoa. Because I think the first time I read it through, like that part, I had it on like the sleep, like when you put like 15 minutes.
Yeah.
And I think like I was listening and then I was like starting to doze off, and then I heard that chant and I was like, oh, I'm so awake right now. And I was like, go back.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Yeah.
Vignesh. I haven't tried the audio book yet, but after hearing Jessica's voice, I want to try it. Definitely recommend. 100% recommend.
Yeah, hey, we already got another audiobook purchase in the chat as well. That's cool.
Yay! Awesome. So yes, are you a masochist? With that of which that goes directly into the basement. I like it.
Listen, if we have a grimdark Disney, I'm all over that. Give me Disney.
Honestly, maybe.
I'm all over it.
I would love that.
the original version of Mickey Mouse, like the steamboat something, the black and white is going. Yeah, he's going into public domain, I think, somewhat soon, but it's still iffy.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it was really, really cool. Oh, there is a question from Kay as well. If we get to that.
Did you find differences in your publishing experience between 11th Cycle and the underwhelming epic? If so, what was most surprising?
Yeah, here's the thing. The underwhelming epic, people loved it, really enjoyed it. When I published that one, I really had no idea what I was doing in terms of publishing. But then I started getting into the author community, and I learned a lot through that. So once I started getting to 11th Cycle, I did a proper cover reveal with a vlog. I sent out actual arcs. And I think the other really, really interesting thing, and which is basically just when you publish Grimdark, the way that people respond to it is very, very different. So you have had some people which are like, this is really not for me, and other people are like, I'm just really into it. And I think that was something that I also had to be like, that's interesting. People respond to this very differently than they would a more classic fantasy story. And I think that's something that was also very, very different in terms of just how people react to it. I've had people who are, have said, I don't like Grimdark. They still bought the book, and they're like, yeah, I don't like Grimdark. Just reaffirmed that for themselves. Yeah.
Fair enough. Awesome. Yay.
Thank you, guys.
2. Yes. Yep. It sounds like there's going to be a buddy read. Amazing. Put it in the India Chords Discord so I can jump in and put all of my notes again. I just love reading, especially on your Discord, I love reading everyone's thoughts about the different chapters and their reactions.
Yeah.
It's just
same. And for me, it's like, especially when people get to, when I say that scene, everybody knows which scene I'm talking about. And I think that's the part where everybody's like, oh my God, this is dark. Most of the time, I've had a handful of people are like, that wasn't dark enough for them. And I'm like, whatever you read, I don't want to touch that.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, absolutely.
Yeah. Vivian says, I always struggle with female narrators, to be honest, but Jessica's enthusiasm was contagious. I think she's my new favorite female narrator.
Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yay. Speaking of audio, it is like a new experience listening to your book. Does it start to feel like you're listening to it as a reader and not as an author?
Yes. And here's the thing. Once I publish my book, I typically, as a rule, never read it again, because all that's going through my head is, I could have done this better. But the exception that I make to that rule is the audiobook, because I have to know what it's like as an audiobook format. And at the same time, it does feel a little bit different, because it's the way that you guys breathe life into these characters and really give them a distinct voice. Truly, in my head, I'm like, Jessica, you've given Nora and Delilah their voices the same way that Evan has given, the voices to the other characters, and I can't imagine their voice being anything else. So yeah, it's definitely different.
Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah. It's so funny. As you're talking, I'm just remembering all of these different scenes in the book that made me so mad at you. So maybe I'm like, oh yeah, that's right, you did this.
Oh man, I'll say it this way: the snow scene with Nora, probably my heart.
The one after, or okay, after. Gotcha. Yeah. We probably can't say more without spoilers.
No, not without a spoiler alert.
Yeah.
We will get into some spoilers later.
No,
But
no.
And
that
Dark Space. Can we get Jessica for the audio version of Dragon's Air?
This is a really interesting question. Dragon's Air was a novella that I published years and years and years ago. I think it's been 4 years. This was before Fantastically Underwhelming Epic, and Fantastically Underwhelming Epic is what got me my contract with Podium Audio. And it's also what got me in touch with Chris from Actors Everywhere. Actors Everywhere. I don't know if there's ever going to be an audiobook for Dragon's Air. It was my first foray into publishing. People enjoyed it. If people asked me, I would be like, yeah, sure. And I mean, it's a novella, but I'd absolutely love to have Jessica be the one who narrates it.
Awesome. Bye. You made the best door stopper ever.
Thank you so much, Bill. That is the kindest thing you've ever said to me.
I mean, it's a brick.
Yeah. I love how you have this little sticky tags in between the pages. Is it like, these are the parts that have emotionally damaged me the most?
Emotional damage. I actually started, and then I read through it so quickly that I couldn't keep tabbing. So you'll see it starts with tabs and then it's just nothing because I just went through the whole book.
It's a page turner. It's a page turner. It's like, yeah.
And when you're not reading it, you're thinking about reading it.
Yeah.
So I do need to do a reread because it irks me that it's not tabbed all the way through. And I'm pretty sure you saw my video where you can see that it's got some water damage.
That's
so
awesome.
I need to buy another one. So in this one, I am going to highlight and write my reactions in it and all that sort of stuff. So I'm very.
That's just a well-loved book.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's well used.
Yeah.
Speaking of, I want a hardback copy. I'm going to throw that out there.
I don't know if you saw this. There is actually a broken binding special edition coming.
What?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know what? I've got to do something very, very mean because the audience can't see this, but I'm gonna send you guys a private link for the new art that's gonna come with the hardcover, because there is new art as well.
Oh, that's exciting.
It is very, very cool. I'm pulling it up because I have to put it on Imgur. I know this is gonna upset people because I want to see it too, but unfortunately, I don't think we can do a cover reveal. But I don't want to shoot myself in the foot just in case. Okay, here. And it is private. Yeah, it is. Okay, here. So this is the private chat. Here you go. Rude.
No one can see this, right?
No one can.
Alrighty. Hang on.
I'll just give it a thumbs up. That's all.
Okay. just the one reaction that people can read the least amount of emotion from.
Yep.
I'm very happy with it. It's
really
the
cool.
same artist as well who did the did the main front cover as well.
That's
But
cool.
yeah.
That's awesome.
Amazing.
Oh, that's a good question.
Many asked, will that influence the way you write the sequel? When you now hear the voices when you write?
Here's the thing. I think Jessica and Evan did such a good job in cementing the characters and the voices that they have. And I think if it does influence, and it probably does, but it's more it just reaffirms the fact that these are the characters that I've written to these pages. So it just makes me more confident in continuing to carry on that voice in written form, so that you guys can then continue to deliver the performance that you so far have. like something that I really liked from Evan's side as well is the 11th seed is I write them as being this newborn, almost childlike being that has no idea what's happening around them, and he does such a good job of just writing this voice that is almost empty. It has no emotion. It's slow, it's drawn out, and it's enigmatic. And I think that's for something where I heard it and I'm like, perfect. That's exactly what I wanted, and I didn't even know it, kind of thing. Yeah.
Yep.
Good question, though.
It is. You separate it. Move over, Nokia. This is the new brick.
It's on the subject of the subreddit. I read the Discord, but yeah, no, I do have a subreddit as well. I don't use it as often, but that's where I grew my first followship, let's say.
That's awesome.
That's interesting, because I don't know how to use Reddit, so I'm always like,
it is a culture you have to get used to. Some people aren't there just to be mean for the sake of being mean. I know that's where I met like Chris from Actors Everywhere, for example.
He's obsessed with Reddit.
You don't sound impressed.
I can't get into it. I can't. Like, there's too many other social medias out there. I mean, probably he says the same thing about TikTok. I love TikTok. He loves Reddit. So
I was gonna say, if I had to choose, and I was, good at both, I'd go with TikTok because the organic reach you have with that is insane. I just probably wouldn't use it for doctor advice, but other than that,
well, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like that's just any social media. Don't go with social media as this is where I get, like, when I have a cough, what I should do,
Exactly.
Hello, and Dawn, just stopping by to say hello. So, and down. Sorry, I can't read. That's funny.
Hello. I'm going to quickly go up and see the ones that I missed. We all just ask Amazon for refunds. Toria has thrown off her peenie in disgust.
Listen, I'm not saying that TikTok is healthy to get on, Vivian. I'm just saying that it's fun. Listen, my problem is also that I doom scroll in general. So if I doom scroll on Reddit, I'm going to get in my head about a lot of stuff because it's all words versus, like, I have trained my algorithm on TikTok to only show me, like, hey, show me cute animal videos, show me funny videos, show me Disney videos, and show me, like, book talk recommendations. And, like, so I don't get anything else but, like, here's happiness and serotonin instead of, like, let me tell you about this deep, dark thing. Oh, well, I do have true crime on there, too. So every once in a while, it'll be like, and her limbs were cut off, and her face was cut off. And I'm like, okay.
I use my partner's TikTok for that because he watches that. So if he's away and I'm just like, oh, I feel like some true crimes, like, give me your TikTok.
Yeah. I'm a huge MFM fan. My favorite murder. Like, so, like, I have my bipolar self. I'm like, Disney, true crime. Disney, true crime.
I feel like you have to have those.
And then put it together.
There you go. Oh my gosh. There we go. It'd be like a true crime novel, but it's all like the Disney characters, and it's how, like, certain charters, like, were found dead and like who murdered them.
In a black and white Disney noir.
Ooh, yes. That reminds me of oh shoot, what's the name of that? It's a video game, Bendy and the Ink Machine. It is supposed to be kind of like a take on, like, the old school cartoons, like Steamboat Willie, and it's supposed to be like an abandoned factory, and you find out all this grim stuff that happened in the factory. It's, like, so much fun.
I'm gonna look it up and play it when I'm not writing.
It's fun. True crime about who killed baby's mom, right? That one hurts.
I find this really funny. I'm so looking forward to the hardback edition so much that I test bought Broken Binding to see. I guess you mean, like, how it works. Broken Binding really does beautiful special editions. Like,
Mm.
wowza. I'm really excited because it's also going to have sprayed edges. So it's going to be like with for like people who don't know, that's like this part of the book is going to have like art on it.
Oh, that's awesome. That's really cool. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Amazing.
I'm really actually curious as well. Hi there, HC. I'm really curious as well, Jessica. Like when you were doing working with Evan, you guys had a really short actually deadline to record everything for the really big book. I guess you didn't actually have time to read each other's chapters. You kind of had to do your own, or how did you guys do that?
So how we do our process just in general, or how I do my process and how I was basically taught via Chris at Actors Everywhere and everything is we don't really like and this is going to go against a lot of people that are audiobook narrators and they're all like going to be like, how dare you, blah, blah, blah. I don't actually thoroughly read through the entire book before doing an audiobook. I do what's called parsing, and that is where I'm like basically skimming through the book to find major plot points, to find major characters, things like that. And I create like a Google Sheet database of all of that information, as well as made up words like countries, cities, names, bars, things like that. So if it's like a weird pronunciation, we can be like, okay, like Navaria, like that's not a real place. So how would I pronounce that? Okay, let's come up with how we're going to say it and make sure it stays consistent the entire time. The reason why I don't like to thoroughly in-depth read a novel is because I am first and foremost an actor. So I like to live in the moment as I am reading the book. And I feel like if I really thoroughly read through a book and something dramatic happens, I can't get into the headspace nearly as much as, when I'm reading it organically that first time. And I'm like really feeling the emotions during a scene. Especially some of those scenes that are very dramatic in your novel. It's like, it's just very passionate. So that's what we normally do is we go through it that way and everything. And then, so I didn't get to read his chapters, like really, except for that parsing day where I was skimming through to make sure like, okay, is there anything in his chapters that informs what happens in my chapters? Because there's some parts where the characters like overlap and everything. So I wanted to make sure I understood when that was happening. There's also times where they have nothing to do with each other for like months. So, I was like, okay, I don't need this information, but I need this information. But yeah, that's really how we did it. And the other thing is that our company really does usually 2.5 hours of finished audio a day, which takes roughly 4 hours, usually like 3 to 3.5 of recording and then like 30 minutes of like editing and stuff. Cause we don't do what most people, a lot of audiobook narrators do. It's called a punch and roll, which is when you make a mistake, you go back and you delete everything and then you re-record from that line forward. What we do is, I don't have one with me, but we use basically a dog clicker, if you've ever seen one of those, because the frequency of those is so much higher than the natural human voice, to where you'll be going along and like your like little sound wave is going like this, and all of a sudden you see a big spike and you'll know that's where I made a mistake, and you go back from the line there, to where we never have to stop the recording. We just click, go, keep going.
Wow.
So then the editing happens afterwards. Most audiobook narrators are only averaging like an hour to an hour and a half a day. We do 2.5 hours of audio. We do roughly 50 hours of finished recorded audio every month. And that is really almost unheard of in the industry. That's why we're able to turn out so many books and have a bunch of stuff on our catalog within like a couple years. Like I have between Audible, Audiobook Guild, and various authors' Patreons and stuff like that, I think I have probably close to, if I'm averaging, I'm gonna do some math like real quick here. If I'm averaging
That's insane.
5 books a month for 12 months. That's 60 books a year. And I've been doing it for 4 years. Plus I would say I have like 300 books under my name within like 4 years of doing audiobooks. And that's a lot.
That is wild.
Yeah.
That is impressive.
In tandem with that, I'll just skip to this one question. How many times have you lost your voice? I'm a professionally trained singer. I've been studying voice consistently since I was 15, but like on and off since I was like 8. So I have a pretty resilient voice, and I know a lot of things in order to keep your voice very healthy. The times that I have lost my voice are due to me getting COVID and due to me like going to Disney World and screaming my head off when I know that I shouldn't be. But like, as far as like during my professional time, unless like I've gotten absolutely sick, I actually have not lost my voice due to overuse. Knock on wood. So.
Really interesting. I think it's honestly impressive. I was gonna say, I think now is also a great time to get into spoiler talk. Because I know, Lana, you had some questions.
Yeah.
You're putting us on trial. That's all this is. You just organized all of this to like.
I need to pee. Oh, okay. So my 3-year-old needs to pee, so that's great timing.
So cute.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just gonna pop it into spoilers. I am listening. Just cool.
Are there any questions? If you need to take them to the restroom, we can answer any other questions while you run real quick before we get into that.
Amazing. Yeah. I won't be long. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. No. Go do that. If anybody has any other questions, we're monitoring the comments. I can't really pop up the little thingy that shows what questions being asked, but like I can definitely answer the questions and see the comments. So we're not doing spoiler talk quite yet. So if you want to like hang out for a few minutes, we'll probably still do other things.
Or yeah.
Or do you have any questions before, like, while we're waiting on comments to come up?
I think a lot of my questions are spoilery, maybe.
Okay.
Because I am curious because you're like, oh, there's parts that made you cry. Well, here's the thing. I am actually gonna ask one question. Out of Delilah and Nora, was there one that was your preferred favorite?
It's hard. That's hard, you know. Nora's journey is just very, very interesting to me, and I find her story really captivating. I don't know. They both have such really cool story. I don't know. Like they both like fall into these like hubris moments that they kind of get like, you know, like overconfident, and then suddenly something comes and knocks them out of the way and stuff. I loved Delilah's stuff with like the I'm gonna say things, and it's not that big of the priesthood, like the priest in the nunnery. Like I loved that whole entire thing, especially like the mentor and that big section. I think that's very, very fascinating. I loved the fact that like she has this power that's like forbidden and stuff, and like she tries to like hold it down, and I thought that was very interesting to play with. I loved Nora because of the struggles that she goes through, and she just keeps getting back up and fighting. And I'm like, God, like I personally was like, if I was in her situation, I would have just offed myself at this point. I would not have had this resiliency that she has. But it's like, that is why I think right now we're dealing with the anger part, but I think there is a hope there and a resilience there that, you know, is a great facet to them. Yeah, poor Nora. It's just, oh God.
Yeah.
But yeah, I loved both. I think so Nora sits more in my natural voice. It's just a little bit lower, so I can easily pop into her, versus Delilah is putting on an accent, which is something I trained with in college and everything. And it's also a little bit lighter, so I have to suddenly put her in a highest placement and also put an accent on top of it. So they're very different sides of my voice. I always think an accent is fun, so I enjoy playing with Delilah's accent a lot. But there are some parts of Nora that I definitely feel I connected with, in the sense of having gone through some struggles that are similar to hers, and being the eldest from a family that's a little bit more conservative and stuff. Like, yeah, so both have their own things. It's hard to choose like which one I would pick over the other. I think they both are very, very fascinating and well-developed characters. So
Really cool. Thank you.
of course.
Cool. Lana, you're back. Would you
Whoop, whoop.
you have spoiler questions? Oh, we can't hear you.
Oh,
Sorry, I muted myself. Can we please talk about the Arctic chapter?
Sure. Well, what about it?
All of it. So how did that come about? Like, I'm so intrigued to know.
So here's the thing. You know what? I think this is so interesting. I do want to address sex within the book in general. I do think that a lot of people were rightly like, no sex in fantasy. Like, do not do this. And I did have people, beta readers, who are like, consider the fact that people will not like this. I think I was a lot happier with Chroma's. And people, this is your last chance regarding spoilers if you haven't read it. Regarding the orgy scene, and for the Akar, it very much was about a lot of the insecurities we have growing up, and you have this character who is feeling very inadequate. You're literally a character that's from a warrior race, but you're living, like, your entire life has been a refugee, so you have never had a chance to live up to that kind of heritage that your people usually live up to. And then you're not as big as the other men Akar who are your age, and you suddenly feel like you are not deserving of your crush's affection. And at the same time, later in the book, you have Nora and Rafik. Looking back, I have to say, great performance, Jessica. I blushed listening to it, but great performance. And a lot of that was like Nora's, sex scene was very different, because I wanted to show a character who is very confident in her sexuality and what she wants, and she just takes it. And there is no demureness, there is no dainty quality to her. Still, at the same time, looking back, maybe what I would change is make it more appropriate to that medieval setting. But other than that, I'm like, I wanted a character that shows that she is very confident in that. And then again, later, when she does become disabled, she masturbates. And that was my way of showing, like, hey, she is disabled, but that doesn't mean that she's asexual, which is unfortunately something very common, that people think that just because you're disabled, you're no longer interested in sex, which is not the case. So that was a lot of like my mind, like, when you're talking about a world that has so much rawness and emotion, I also wanted to show an unfiltered rawness to the sexual nature of things as well. Absolutely, I know that it rubbed some people the wrong way, but that was my intention behind it. But yeah, that's my answer.
Particularly with Nora's masturbation scene, I thought that was super powerful. Like, that hit something in me that I was just like, yes. So yeah, to me, it was quite powerful. And I think, like, for me personally, the way that the sex scenes were written, in particular Nora's, I wouldn't have changed anything about them, but I'm used to reading really steamy sex scenes.
Spicy scenes.
Yeah. Like, give me all of the spice. So it wasn't jarring for me. Like, I love sex in my fantasy.
Mm-hmm.
But just the way that it was done, it was so unapologetically Nora.
Mm-hmm.
And usually when we do read sex scenes in fantasy, like, the female is portrayed as like a little demure and like naive or innocent. And I just loved that she was just like, yep, this is what I want, I'm gonna take it.
I love that both characters kind of explored that. Like, you know, even Delilah with she had more shame involved in it and everything. But like, you know, it still was unapologetic because I mean, sex is such a natural part of everyone's life. Like even in these fantasy worlds, like animals, creatures, humans, it's a part of like our lives and stuff. And so it's like, why would you shy away from a facet of someone's life? And you can still explore those sides of Nora being confident in her masturbation. She'd be like, this is me. And Delilah being like, I was told that this is bad and this is like not good and I shouldn't be doing this. Like you have those two like sides to where you're seeing both ways, but you still have them being like, even though like I'm more innocent, I'm more naive, I'm more like demure outside, like I still have these desires inside of me.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think part of it, one of my early beta readers, because obviously from the very beginning when I sent out beta reader copies, the sex scenes was on my mind of like, and especially the masturbation scenes. But something that made me confident, like, no, I should actually leave it in there, was when somebody said to me, I like the fact that you included women, exploring their sexuality and masturbating without making it a focal point about shame. Like even like sure, Delilah did feel personal shame, but the world around her wasn't trying to make a moral story that bad things are happening to her because of that.
Yep.
That was just all stuff that was going on in her head, and that's the moment I'm like, you know what, I like that, and I felt confident leaving that in there. Yeah.
Yep, I loved it.
But
There's
yeah,
a
no,
question-
yeah. No, go for it.
No, I was actually going to point out that thing that kind of ties into it. So you already got it.
What was it like writing these sorts of scenes? Did it come naturally, or was it something you had to unlock, so to speak?
Funnily enough, because we just talked about smut, I read a little bit of smut, which ended up becoming a lot of smut. No, in preparation.
Always.
Yeah, no, but like, because I was like, okay, like, what are these kind of? And what's interesting is that I actually hunted down smut written by women, because a lot of people are like, oh, I don't like smut written by men. Okay, sure. I hunted those down to see how it was written, and I kind of then, and it still ended up being very steamy and very erotic and all of that. I think part of it was the fact that it's so descriptive, and I read online people are like, oh, you shouldn't use the word member or you shouldn't use the word cock, and I tried my best in certain instances of like alluding to certain parts. But at the same time, I took away from the rawness a little bit. So I think I was just trying to find the balance there. I wouldn't. I think it's a bit of both. There was a natural way with the prose that I think worked for it, and like one that I really liked is Delilah's masturbation scene, where I described it as the lights of the candles, almost being like a war of conquest over her body, and I kind of like that imagery, and that worked for me. And but other stuff I did have to research. 50 Shades of Hey, Bo, you don't want to see 50 Shades of Me. I can promise you that.
And so he's like, I'd read that. It was definitely raw, that's for sure. When you say you had to do research, what sort of research?
I think different kinds of research. Again, part of it was like, hey, people don't like it when you use the words member or penis or what have you. And other times it was, again, like just how other women, people wrote like smut fantasy. It was a lot of that. But that wasn't the only thing. Like, I've been very open about this, that I did a lot of research when it comes to disability representation in the book. So it was also me looking up and talking to people who are disabled. One person who I won't mention their name had a disability where they had very sensitive skin. So, hands and everything, like a lot of the body had to be bandaged because of it, and they still masturbated. That's still possible. So like where there is a will, there is a way, sort of thing. And I wanted to show that no matter at what point you are disabled, you can still explore these kinds of stuff. And I think that was the biggest part of my research, was literally just disability. I read a lot of books, movies, et cetera, et cetera.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I'll tell you, as a narrator, I can also attest to having to read the word penis or vagina, both of them in a sex scene, make me laugh, because to me it's so clinical sounding, and I'm like, in the moment, I'm not gonna be like, penis. I'm like, I can't.
For me, I think the part that made me blush the most is when Rafiq and Nora were getting it on, and you had this like very like so much emotion, a very vocal moan, and then followed by like a breathing heavy stick it in me, which was very well performed. But then I was like, should I be listening to this?
I will be 100% honest. Like, me doing recording a sex scene is probably the most hilarious thing you will ever, like, if you heard like the raw version before I take out the stuff. Because a lot of times, no matter how good the sex scene is, I am a child, like, inside, and I will just laugh. I will laugh just at certain parts, not because anything remotely funny is happening or it's written in any like funny way. It's just I'm a child, and I will like do something, and even if I do something really well, and I'll be like, whatever, and then I'll be like, oh my god, I can't believe I just did that, and then I'll have to like go back and just like redo it, because to me it's just such an interesting part of the job, because it's like such an intimate thing to like perform and to read and everything. So when you're having to perform it, knowing other people will be able to hear you, you're just like, okay, here we go.
It is absolutely a testament to your ability, but also I was thinking to myself how you didn't just crack up, which you obviously did. But yeah, no, that was very interesting to me, hearing that performance.
Yeah. Yeah. There was one time in another book where like I had to say something and I could not for the life of me like get it out. I finally had to just stop recording and like laugh for a few minutes and be like, okay, all right, we're okay. Everything's fine. This is okay. All right. Woo, okay. And get back to it. Because they're just like sometimes like the things that are written are just like not anything you would ever say in real life. And you're just like, okay, now I have to get myself in this headspace.
Yeah.
That was literally it. It's like that meme of the guy like, are we the baddies? But it's just instead, did I write smut?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, obviously. I think that scene, which we're in spoiler section now, so I can say the Nora rape scene, I think, hit people really, really hard. Yeah. Especially because a lot of people, and I don't know how many people got this, maybe nobody did, but I did try to kind of infer the fact that in that moment she was dissociating, because it was so gruesome. And I did like kind of descriptively write that she was having her remaining 2 limbs amputated, and a lot of people didn't catch that until they got to the scene where Airfield finds her and then carries her out of the snow. I think that's the part. Yeah.
I got that immediate. Like as I was reading and performing that, I was just like, oh gosh, it was very powerful though. And you know, it was, my heart ripped open from that.
Thank you, I think.
No, it's good. It's a good thing.
Yeah. And I'm a really forgetful reader. So like I read everything. Like I read the foreword, I read the trigger warnings, I read the author's note. And then I completely forgot that it was in there. Like I knew that it was dark and grim. And then when we got to that scene, I was just like, oh, I was warned about this, but holy shit.
I really, I think there are some readers obviously where it didn't phase them, but I think for the most part there's very little that can prepare you for that scene. Not to mention, like, okay, rape, amputation, but also on top of that a dog getting murdered. I think it's like this very messed up trifecta of things going on, which are just so dark and so bleak. And I've had several people being like, I had to stop reading at that point, or I nearly did not finish because it's so, yeah. And like people in chat as well. Like I ran straight to the spoiler section on Discord. Yeah,
Yeah,
it hits people like
it
differently.
does.
Yeah, I will, something I'm very proud of personally. Yeah, Viv as well. Dog was Crystal Line. Something I was personally very, very proud of is the fact that I don't know how often this happens, but it was the fact that Nora as a person became disabled, and was being questioned by Arafiel of like, who did this to you? We will hunt, and she outright refused to tell them because it was her vengeance to claim.
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of times in fantasy, it's usually like the rape scene is used as a growing motivation for the male character. And in this instance, I want to be like, you know what? This is a chance for the woman character to go out and seek their vengeance that is rightfully hers. It's not Arafiel's claim.
Yeah. One second, my computer just warned me. I need to grab my cords. I'll keep talking. Just wanted you to know.
Yeah. She definitely disassociated as well, and I think it's the relationship that she then builds to everything is something completely different. And I did leave a lot of it open-ended, so it's not just her. Like some people have said, like with Delilah, of like, that's so strange that she was like so obsessed with Perry. I never had that impression while Perry was alive, that they were so like in love. And here's the thing, in my mind they never were. It's just indirectly suggested that she romanticized the idea of Perry to the point where it becomes almost a romanticized version of him, and she almost, in this very sick and demented way, turns his death into this whole like woe is me thing, which is also very, very unhealthy. And sometimes it's not overt. Sometimes I want people to either make up their own theories or put together their own like explanations for stuff.
It's like, are you guys both visual people? Like when you're reading or writing, do you see movies, like a movie play out in your head?
Yeah. Are you referring to like aphantasia?
Yeah.
Or yeah.
Because for me, like I saw this whole book in like a third person, except for that rape scene. That rape scene was in first person. And it was like almost just like looking at the ground, and like the view was moving, like it was, things were being done to you, but just the full disassociation. Like when I was reading it, that's how I saw it. Like when it got to that, like her viewpoint, it was just like moving ground. Like I was, and then after I read that, I stopped and I was like, that's interesting. That's never happened in my brain before while I've been reading. Like it was just so powerful. I was just like, it literally was like a movie in my head, but like, so freaking good. So freaking good. Both the performance and the writing. So.
Thank you. I feel like I should apologize, but I'll take it as a compliment.
It was amazing. What is this notification? And we have a question. How fun was it to write the innocence of the 11th seed?
Very, very fun. I think some people, when they first read the book, they're like, oh, the 11th seed is like, there's no emotion here. It's all very weird and strange, and it goes over my head. And I think it's the later parts where people see Ivaris interact with the rest of the world, where they're like, hey, this guy is actually, or this being rather, is kind of endearing in a sense. And I think one of my favorite bits with Ivaris, or like two favorite bits, was one when he appears before Lady Imri and the White Hawk, and Aeolus taught Ivaris like to smile, and they like kind of do this weird chagrin of like, yeah, like just like a really ugly kind of grimace, and Delilah just kind of nudges them in the side of like, stop it, you're being weird. um or like there's just this other part where where Ivaris meets Nora for the first time and goes to shake her hand, and then is like, and I think that's not just that it was funny, but it was also something that I felt really spoke to the fact that we as a society, kind of don't speak about stuff that makes us uncomfortable because we don't know how to deal with it. And yet Ivar as this being is kind of like, oh, I never considered you as anything other than what I've seen you before me now, kind of thing. And I really enjoyed that moment, whereas this kind of very raw and truthful approach of like, I want to shake your hand because that's how people greet each other, and I don't see you missing a limb as a disability, sort of. Yeah.
Mm. Yeah. This is not gonna lie, Ivaris made me laugh so hard. Really enjoyed Steve's relationship with Dahlia. Yeah.
Oh, I'm glad. And I think that's something that people are very excited for with book 2, just because of the title alone, Forgotten Seed. And I think that it makes a promise of a lot of the world building that has been set up.
Johnny Coleman tries to.
Yes. Yeah. It's exactly that, pretty much.
And we also, what came first, the world or the wider story or the characters?
They all came pretty much at the same time. I think bits and pieces came later. So Delilah came from actually a D&D character concept I had about like, what if there was a woman cleric that is very, very warm, and she's selfless and she smiles, but her motivations are corrupt, and it's like she sees as the ultimate way of like being a good person, that it would be to sacrifice her life saving someone else. And it's this and I thought that was a very interesting character concept. I wanted to do it, I threw it in there. Nora was born, there is a Paralympian, what's her her name, Bebe Vio, is an Italian fencer who lost all 4 of her limbs because of a disease when she was a child. I forgot the name of the disease. And she is such a marvel to look at, not because of her disability per se, but it's more of the fact that she has such a strong will. And I thought that's such an interesting character. And I explored of like, hey, maybe I want to do a character that's actually representative of disability in the fantasy genre, because it's not often done very well. But then other parts were like, I want to do about this world, which is, the contract of time, that the fact that time is based on whenever a cycle is completed, there will be another month added, or the fact that the sun and the moon, and the sun is the Elder King's eye, and the moon is his other blinded eye, and that the stars are actually the souls of these undead beings locked away in their kingdom. And yeah, it just bits and pieces came pretty much at the same time for this story, I would say. It was a big, massive, and pretty, what's the word, like, pretty ambitious project. Yeah.
Yeah. It's got so much in it. And I think I said in the Discord as well, Nora has been the character that's stuck with me, like even still, like right down to her prejudice of the Akar. Like I just thought it was really ironic that she had this like such a fierce prejudice against these people that have never done anything wrong by her personally. And she's just so like cold to Chroma.
Yeah.
And then like all of her pain, all of her trauma has come from her own people. Like
Yeah.
I was just like, whoa, like it was that still sticks with me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that was super cool.
I'm glad. I've had people be like, um, why is she so prejudiced towards them? And I think it sometimes there is no reason to the racism. It's just a lot of prejudice that spreads and is infectious. And I did have a lot of people tell me how much they absolutely hate Nora's family, and even like Jeremiah later in the book, and the way
Yes.
she's yeah, and
Yeah.
He
the
was a
way that
disappointment. I was like, I'm so disappointed in you.
Yeah, 100%. I actually derived, at least from a character building standpoint, with Nora's prejudice, is that like I think she had that hope in her brother that he would grow out of it and rebel like she did. And so I think that for me, I think that there is the prejudice from that whole entire like colony of people having these prejudices and being so religious and stuff, that probably gives that the Akar kind of that already in the back of her mind thing. But I did in my brain go, watching your little brother's best friend die from an Akar probably was that like final nail that sealed that coffin of prejudice, because like watching that happen and going, oh, like that's my little brother's best friend that literally just got like obliterated, like in front of like the friends. And then her probably seeing the trauma that came from that, the fact that Jeremiah was then crippled and couldn't do what he wanted to do for the rest of his life, and the fact that like Delilah was then sent off to a nunnery and was like accused of witchcraft and things, and like she saw the repercussions of what this Akar did affecting all of her brother and all of his friends, probably was like that, oh my gosh, well yeah, they're horrible they're horrible now, they're just everything horrible. Yeah.
I thank you, John. You're lovely. I do know so I feel like, Jessica, you do have to leave soon. You have more books to narrate, and I wouldn't want to keep you. I do want to. This is one question that I spotted earlier. I didn't know where, but somebody did ask, what was the green-eyed thingy at the bottom of the well? I can't tell you guys, but I will say there are a lot of questions that people might have in the book. The clues are there, and I do think that there's a substantial clue about what is at the bottom of the well. But that's all I can say.
Ooh. That was me.
Yeah.
Please sorry.
I can't, unfortunately, but there are a lot of these. Like somebody asked me, who was the person who gave Nora a ride to Bracken, and people have these questions, and good. That's why I want you guys to have. But the you can build your own theories, and I have said to people that every single theory that you come up with is as valid as the theory that I have in my head. I've had people who've asked me as well, like, hey, what was Brother Clemence's motivations towards the end? And I have my own canon in my head, but I really want you guys to come up with your theories as well. But yeah.
I loved like, oh yeah, no, we're in spoilers. I absolutely loved the torture scene with the 11th seed. Just
with Brother Clown, yeah.
Just the whole like childlike curiosity and the way he went about it, I was just like
yeah, I enjoyed writing it because it also felt like it was a little bit impassionate, that there was no real glee or joy, or it was just curiosity to the point where it was like a kid plucking a wing off of a dragonfly, you know. And I think that added a lot more sense of horror to it. But yeah. Yeah.
100%.
Yeah, exactly.
Interesting.
Like a kid with an insect.
Yeah. That was definitely the vibe I got. You're hungry? Okay. Won't be long, baby. So with the elders up in Mount Monia, is there a reason for the specific animal bodies they inhabit? Like, is it hinting towards something? Why one is, say, a spider as opposed to a lion?
Are you the only one that has any symbolism with a spider is Master. Master does have like no face, it's just shrouded darkness, and there's a hood. And within the arch of the hood, the spider has made its web. Yes and no. Like the Zerub are far more animalistic, so they embody certain animal heads. I don't know if there are any elders that like most of the elders are enigmatic in their own other ways. Like you have the lore keeper that has no head, but it does have like a sprouted flower at the top of its neck, where like if an ear blooms if it needs to listen to something, or an eye blooms if it needs to see something. But yeah, I guess there's the Crow Father. There's some elders that have animalistic features, but for the most part, that is just part of the Zerubs. But yeah, or the Zerubs. Yeah.
Hungry. Okay, awesome. Okay. How much fun was it to come up with these crazy elder beings?
Sometimes it's a lot of fun. Like seriously, I think other times it's just a little bit difficult to keep them all distinct and unique. I think one of my favorite ones was just the fact that Silence is an elder, but Silence is never described as like having any shape or form. It's just there. It's with the capitalized S. I don't know. Like I'm curious for Jessica, when you were narrating like Delilah and Nora, and they met the blacksmith, for example, the first time, and kind of giving a voice to the blacksmith and to the blue dwarf at what was that like? Like trying to breathe voice into these, godlike beings.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I personally, so to harken back to my love of Disney, when it comes to godlike beings, I always immediately think of like the characters from Hercules and things of that nature, and how those and like other various cartoons I grew up with, and how they kind of sounded, and to take that idea, tone it down a little bit so it's a little more seated in reality, and then looking at like what is involved in that scene, how they sort of act, if there's any indication of what would be the best accent as given by like the dialogue, like when Scottish is written, like you'll see like "wee lass" or things like that, or if you'll see like certain ways that punctuation is used to interpret like an accent of some sort. So I use that kind of to inform various things. And I always just think of gods as always having like a little bit more gravitas to their voice than your average Joe. Even if it's something like Hermes from Hercules that has like a goofy sort of tonation to their voice, still like saying like they know their stuff. So apparently, like, you got to give them something that evokes that omnipotent sort of thing.
Yeah. Interesting.
A lot of a lot of imagination is used.
I have to go
Yeah,
back into it as well.
100%. Okay, I don't want to keep you guys too long. I know you guys are busy and have your days planned. I did say that we would give away a physical copy of the book. So I'm going to quickly get that organized. If anyone has any last questions or anything, or comments or praise or anything, just drop that in the comments.
Yeah. I know earlier there was a question, Tori. I don't know if you're still here or not. Tori Talks, they asked a question about like if there was any advice to someone who's getting started in narration. I don't want to ramble on if they're not here, but if you're still here, if you want to pop a little wave or something in the comments, I'll answer that question.
I'm also curious.
Okay. Go ahead.
Yeah. No, I know Tori, so like, even she might not be here because it was spoiler time, but I'll make sure that she gets to listen to this part again, so you can go in as much detail as you want.
Okay, yeah. So I was very fortunate in how I got started, in that I suddenly got a random message from Chris, who was an old college mate of mine back in school. He had graduated before me, but he still kind of like hung around because he was dating one of the other students and everything, and he was involved in the theater scene and all that stuff. And I knew he was living in New York, and I suddenly got like this message from him saying like, hey, like, I don't know what you're doing right now, so like with your career and stuff, but I have kind of an opportunity to shoot your way. And that's how I kind of got started doing a book with him. But there are like the website acx.com is a really great website for someone who is kind of getting started in the audiobook business and wanting to be an audiobook narrator. You can submit samples there and apply for various books on there that are done through independent authors. So I find that really nice. And other things that I would recommend is like take a class. There's like a bunch of different websites like Actors Connection that you can use that teach voiceover classes to kind of get your brain in the right mindset. Obviously, getting a good mic, you don't want to use like, AirPods or like a microphone you plug into your phone. Like, your phone is not something you want to use to record any sort of voiceover or audiobook thing, unless you're absolutely desperate in a situation where you're traveling abroad and you get asked to do an audition. But you want a clean sort of sound. Something like the cheapest possible way is you can actually, if you have a closet in which you can sit in that is surrounded by clothes, that is a great option for recording in. You want something that's going to absorb as much of the sound around you as possible. When you're in an open space, kind of like my living room that I'm in right now, you will get a lot of reflections from the various sounds that gives you a hollow sound to your voice, versus when you're in a closet or you surround yourself with like a comforter, like it kind of dampens that sound to make it have that kind of quality you want in an audiobook. Eventually you do, if you're starting to get work, you would want to invest in like a booth or something of that sort. I have what's called an Isovox. It's like this little square thing that kind of makes like a big helmet around my head that I sit inside and I do all my recording, but it has like a great dampening system. It reduces the outside decibels of like the noise that get filtered in, because I live in New York. So the sounds of cars and sirens and stuff, like it helps dampen some of that noise out of it. Good mic, look at classes, things of that sort. dampening of the sound, and like websites you can use are acx.com is a really great one, and then it will get you started and your foot in the door. And then looking at other venues, like looking for an agent, things like that. But I would definitely start with ACX and all that stuff. My mic we started on a Rode NENT 120, something like that. It was a Rode mic. It cost about $150. Since then, we've upgraded, and now I use an Electro Voice RE20 microphone, which is $400. So definitely have upgraded over time, but you always want to use a condenser mic that you would use for like podcasts, because again, it won't absorb as much of the sounds like around you so much as what is going directly towards the mic, which is your voice. I think that, I don't know if that's like the best answer to that question, but hopefully that like gives some sort of insight into all of that and how to get started. So
yeah, 100%.
yeah.
Definitely.
Very comprehensive.
Mm.
I think there was one more question from Hobbit. Kian, have you been surprised by any Easter eggs found by readers so far?
Some of them are very, very like, yeah, I expected that to happen, like the manta rays or an Easter egg from Demon Souls. I think some, yes. One of my favorite, and I'm gonna put out a hint out there about which section it is. The section regarding what was it? The Mary Inn. When Airfield visits that place for the first time, whoever got that Easter egg, that's one of my favorites, and I was usually always impressed when people spotted that one. Yeah. But yeah, there are a lot of them that very surprised. I think actually you, a Hobbit hole, you noticed another one where you ended up noticing something and then proceeded to message me using some very profane choice words to describe me. But yeah, no, it's always really fun, and I get really excited when people notice them. But it's gotten to the point where I can neither confirm or deny anything. But I usually like wink at the person, like maybe. But yeah,
you're such a tease.
I love it. It's what I do.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, I am going to just share my screen. So we can do this. Is it showing? Yes, it is. Okay. I will quickly do the giveaway live. Is there anyone I have missed? Anyone in the chat that would like to go into this and has 11th Cycle in their wish list? There may be a riot over at the Discord.
Can't wait. That's why I have you guys as mods to handle this stuff, so I'm all good. I'm sitting comfortably.
Okay, so I'm going to spin it.
Fingers crossed for whoever. Hey!
Hello, it's actually verse pillow. I can't type, but excellent. So I will be jumping in your wish list and sending you a little something.
Woohoo!
Thank you so much, Lana.
That's all right. We are also writing. Amazing. So I will get that all set up and make that happen. I have a couple of job interviews today, and they're for a very good job. So if I get it, maybe I'll send out another copy.
Fingers
You never
crossed. I
know.
hope you get it.
Mm-hmm.
That would be very good. But awesome. I don't want to hold you guys any longer. Thank you so much for joining me. This has been an absolute blast. And thank you so much for both being so flexible and rescheduling this, because I was mortified last month when the internet just didn't work.
Well, that has
But, yeah.
nothing. That is not your fault whatsoever. You can't, plan for that sort of stuff, really.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having us.
Yeah, 100%.
And I'm very glad that I actually got to talk to Jessica a little bit too. So that's a win in and all of itself.
Yeah, exactly. And just before, as a last note, Jessica, where can we find you?
I mean, I'm on most social media platforms. At jessicadthreet.com. I do not have access to write in the comments, so if you want to write that. But I'm on TikTok, I'm on Instagram, I'm on Twitter, but not really. I really just forward all my stuff to Twitter because I realized that was a really dark place and a lot of people are mean on there. So I was like, I'm just gonna not really look on there. But yeah, I usually use mostly TikTok and Instagram more than anything. And I have a website, which is at www.jessicadthreet.com, which also has all my social media links. And yep, that's it. And you can find me there.
Amazing.
Awesome.
It didn't space where I told it to space, but it's there. And I will also add that into once we finish up here, I'll add it into the description as well.
Awesome sauce. That's great.
Amazing. Cool. Well, thank you so much. And I will talk to you guys later. And I'm sure we will all hear your amazing voice, Jessica, in the very near future.
Well, if nothing else, I'm very excited to do the sequel to this book when it's ready. Very pumped about that. And yeah, lots of audiobooks all the time going. So
awesome.
Yeah. If anybody lives in the New York City area, I will be in a small show in upstate New York at the end of April. But I'm going to feature the links to how to get tickets and all that stuff on my website shortly. So
amazing.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Very cool.
Cool. Well, thank you, everyone as well who came and stuck it out, and congratulations to Pillow vs. Pillow, and we will see you all later. Bye.
Have a great day,
awesome.
guys, or evening, or
Thank
whichever
you,
you're at.